Who do you think would win in a fight, Zeus or Darkseid? A clash between ancient myths and cosmic evil. Zeus, the supreme god of Mount Olympus in Greek mythology and the DC universe, is the Lord of Thunder, the lawgiver and balancer for the gods. He possesses immense divine power, can control storms, unleash destructive lightning bolts, and possesses such superior physical strength that he can go toe-to-toe with cosmic beings. In addition to his physical strength, Zeus also possesses ancient wisdom, thousands of years of combat experience, and the ability to die, making him a pillar of the Olympian gods. Meanwhile, Darkseid is the brutal ruler of Apokolips, a terrible entity who always desires to conquer the multiverse with his tyrannical justice. Darkseid possesses physical strength far beyond Superman, along with unparalleled strategic intelligence and omega energy power that can erase enemies with just a glance. His ability to manipulate reality, control energy, and his iron will make him one of the ultimate threats to the entire DC universe. Before we dive into the analysis, please hit the subscribe button and remember to turn on notifications by clicking the bell icon. Thank you very much. Zeus is the youngest son of Cronus and Rhea and is the current king of the gods. Zeus is often depicted holding a scepter in one hand and a thunderbolt in the other, both symbols of his power. He is sometimes crowned with oak leaves, the oak tree being considered his sacred tree. Considered the ruler of the sky and master of the weather, Zeus is also associated with wisdom and perception, with authority and destiny, with battle and strength. Zeus is renowned for his ability to seduce and charm women, including other gods, with Zeus's efforts being successful in almost every situation, even when transformed into non-human beings. Zeus is known as the god of weather, and in Ovid's Metamorphoses, he covered the earth with clouds to hide Io from Hera. Zeus is the god of thunder and as such has control over lightning, including the ability to directly touch the lightning and throw it at his opponents. It is said that Zeus's lightning never misses, meaning that they can hit opponents at any angle and in any place. He turned Orion into a constellation in the sky and was able to turn two beasts to stone. Demeter is often forgotten among the major gods of mythology, but when she abandoned her role, her power was immediately revealed to be so terrible that the whole world was plunged into darkness, crops withered, and life gradually disappeared. It was this anger that pushed Olympus to the brink, forcing the other gods to bow to her will. This power shows that Demeter can stand on equal footing with Zeus, but in a separate way that is tied to the natural order. However, to bring her daughter back from the underworld, she still needed Zeus's intervention, which confirms that she does not hold a supreme position. Many argue that Zeus is not the strongest god. They cite Zeus's bitter defeat against Typhon when he was torn from his tendons and was almost unable to fight. Zeus became powerless when he lost his thunder, the power associated with his title. That made him look like a king stripped of his throne, becoming a laughing stock in the eyes of his enemies. In addition, Zeus's lack of self-control is also a clear demonstration of his greatest weakness. His impulsiveness, blind actions, and unbridled desires have repeatedly pushed him into mistakes. The incident of him murdering Iasion out of jealousy is a typical example, a stain that is difficult to wash away on the image of the god who is considered the ruler of the sky. There are many arguments that, among the gods on Mount Olympus, Hades is the strongest. Firstly, he is the true firstborn son and prince of Kronos. Secondly, his power over Tartarus and deep magic, his ability to resurrect the dead to immortality, is an extraordinary power, as in the case of Adonis and Macaria. Thirdly, his incredible self-control and self-control. Fourthly, the gods always show reverence whenever he is disturbed, especially Zeus, and most of them shudder when calling his name because they know the depth of his power. Fifthly, he does not need any special tools to become stronger than he is, and Poseidon has this in common. However, among all the Greek gods, the gods of Mount Olympus are not the strongest in terms of power. I would say the strongest god is probably Phanes because his power created the entire universe. It is said that Phanes created the scepter of power, the symbol of supreme ruling power, and he gave it to his son Uranus, who was usurped by Kronos, who was usurped by Zeus. So in terms of ruling power, Zeus held the scepter, so he was lord of the universe and could command the gods who were more powerful than him. But Phanes created the scepter, so it seems they all ruled by his permission, so he was supreme. And if he wanted to overthrow any or all of them, he could. However, in the pre-classical Greek periods, in the Mycenaean and Minoan periods of ancient Greece, the focus was on the chthonic, or underworld, with the gods of death and rebirth, Persephone, Zagreus/Dionysus, playing a more important role in the general Greek psyche. The gods of that time were not to be worshipped, but to be revered and feared, and anyone who dared to speak their true names aloud would suffer the consequences. It's a big deal that Zeus would give in to anyone, and he respected Nyx enough to put aside his rage to avoid angering her. The text states that she has power over gods and men, and obviously confronting her is a really bad idea. Unfortunately, that's all we know. At another point in the Iliad, we're given a more specific reason why Zeus avoids messing with the Moirai, but we don't know why Zeus is afraid of Nyx. It's easy to assume she's old, she gave birth to various beings that are the foundation of the universe itself, the chthonic gods are terrifying, but the truth is, we don't know. We don't know specifically what Nyx is capable of doing to Zeus and the other gods. She wouldn't be throwing cartoonish dark spells at them. We are used to an all-powerful god, so some people automatically assume that because Zeus is fallible, he must not be the most powerful. Yes, Zeus is fallible. He needed the help of his siblings to win the war against the Titans. He even lost to Typhon in some stories, and Nyx could silence him with a withering look through her starry glasses. But he is still the king of the gods, which makes him the most powerful of them all, and that will never change. There is also the idea in Christianity that God is the most powerful being in existence because he created everything else. Zeus is not a creator god, and neither are any of the other Olympians. This may be why some people automatically assume that protogenoi like Chaos or Phanes are automatically the most powerful beings in existence. But this is a misunderstanding of how creation works in Greek mythology. Chaos and Phanes are not active creators, but the ultimate source of existence. Everything comes from chaos, and Phanes is the power or quality that causes things to exist. Remember that the Greeks believed that Zeus ruled because it was his destiny. In Greek mythology, those who tried to change their fate, such as Oedipus, were doomed to failure because the actions they took to change their fate instead led to the fulfillment of their predetermined fate. Zeus was also subject to fate. The Pythia, the oracle of Delphi, said that Zeus was also subject to fate, but he successfully changed his own fate. Zeus rescued his brothers and sisters on Mount Olympus from imprisonment in the belly of their father Cronus. He led them in a fight against the Titans and freed the Cyclopes and the 100-handed giants from Tartarus. With their help, the war against the Titans was successful. He gained the highest position in the Olympian pantheon and earned the respect of the other gods on Mount Olympus, including the respect and support of Poseidon, who was perhaps second only to Zeus in power and dignity, but he acknowledged Zeus's authority over himself and all of creation.
I really hope you subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot, and you are the best. Thank you very much.
Darkseid is one of the most powerful of the new gods and the brutal ruler of Apokolips, a proto-planetary world beyond the boundaries of time and space. His eternal goal is to completely dominate and enslave all life in creation, with everything aligned to his will. Darkseid was formerly known as Uxus, the brother of Drax and the son of Yuga Khan and Queen Hegra, the former rulers of Apokolips. Drax attempted to gain control of the Omega Effect, an infinite source of energy that existed within the Infinity Pit, granting immense power to anyone who used it, but at the last moment, Uxus betrayed his brother and took the Omega power for himself, becoming Darkseid. Darkseid fathered a son with his lover, the sorceress Suli, but she was killed by his mother so he could be forced to marry the wife of her choosing, Tigra. When Suli died, so did Darkseid's spirit, and he fathered a single son with Tigra before imprisoning her in solitude while he focused on ruling. Darkseid waged war on Apokolips' rival world, New Genesis, but was later convinced by Metron to sign a temporary peace treaty. He traded his son with the High Father of New Genesis, exchanging Orion for the child who would become known as Scott-Free. Darkseid continued to plot to gain complete control of creation, researching ways to harness the power of the anti-life equation and the Source. Darkseid was not just a conqueror, he was an absolute destroyer. His power was beyond imagining, enough to make even the greatest beings tremble in fear. In fierce battles, Darkseid has injured, stunned, and bled the Anti-Monitor. Meanwhile, the Anti-Monitor exists on the 6th plane of reality, a realm that is above even powerful beings like Mr. MXYZPTLK. The fact that Darkseid can face him head-on proves that he is almost unrivaled. Darkseid's legendary Omega beams are far superior to other weapons of mass destruction. They are powerful enough to paralyze Superman's heat vision, preventing the Man of Steel from reaching his full potential. In confrontations with the Justice League, Darkseid has withstood their full power even when these heroes were enhanced to the level of gods. Not only that, he has also caused the Spectre, an entity associated with cosmic justice, to scream in excruciating pain. Even more terrifying, even when no longer in his familiar physical form, Darkseid in his spirit state still transcends the Source, which is considered the root of all power and reality. Darkseid stands like an impenetrable wall, calmly ignoring the fierce attacks of Zeus, the king of the gods on Mount Olympus. Even Grail, his daughter and far less powerful, was able to break Wonder Woman's bracelet, a feat few could accomplish. The terrible power of Omega beams proved to be extremely destructive when they disintegrated Batman in a moment, turning a legendary hero into ashes. If Superman is the standard measure of power, then Darkseid's incarnation alone is many times superior. Superman can often fend off and hold Darkseid off, but he rarely overwhelms his opponent alone. In most battles, he needs help from his teammates or outside factors to have a chance at gaining the upper hand. Close observation shows that the scales always tip in favor of the gray-faced man, proving the absolute dominance that Darkseid holds. Not only does he possess incredible strength, speed, and durability, but the weapon that makes every enemy tremble is the Omega Beam, an energy source that is both unavoidable and capable of erasing anyone from reality. With Darkseid, his avatar form is on par with the galaxy in terms of scale. His true form is perhaps universal, living outside the bounds of the natural world. He interacts through his avatar form, the Darkseid you may have used. However, that is only a vessel that contains a portion of his power. If the chains were removed from his true form and he were directly interacted with, he would be far more powerful than any non-abstract entity. Darkseid once demonstrated his absolute power when he defeated the combined Eschaton, an entity formed from all the Eschatons, with a single shot. Darkseid also possesses mental powers beyond all standard. He can control objects with his mind, lifting giant blocks like a chessboard before him. When necessary, he can erect force fields as strong as walls, blocking the most terrible attacks. His ability to manipulate minds also makes him a fearsome ruler. Darkseid can impose his will on millions of people at once, turning entire civilizations into obedient tools serving his ambition to conquer. In battle, he also has the ability to change size, expanding his body into a giant pillar or shrinking to move at surprising speeds. With teleportation, he makes all distances meaningless, appearing and disappearing at will. It is the manifestation of omnipotent destruction that makes Darkseid not just a ruler, but the embodiment of absolute power, beyond the limits of gods and the universe. Uxus can manipulate his body size to heal serious injuries, and can even extract the soul from the body of another. He can even resurrect others if he wants, which is why he will sometimes kill his subordinates in anger for their failures. Darkseid's brute strength can tear apart reality. His Omega beams have destroyed multiple universes with ease, and he has even destroyed the entire timeline of a universe. Darkseid recently killed the all-powerful Zeus in his 8-year-old body, only to steal Zeus's power to become the all-powerful enemy he is now. He's constantly portrayed as a threat to the multiverse and has even fought on par with the Anti-Monitor, who is responsible for nearly destroying the entire multiverse. And this is just his manifest form. His true form is so powerful that he can destroy the multiverse's reality with a single shake of his head. His true form would destroy the multiverse simply by existing. This non-physical form exists in a higher realm of reality. Darkseid in his true form cannot die. because he is not a physical entity, but the embodiment of an idea. On Mount Olympus, the sky was filled with thick, black clouds. Lightning tore through the night like flaming swords. Zeus, the ruler of the sky, stood at the top of the mountain, his eyes blazing like divine fire. He raised his fiery spear and summoned thunder, each explosion resounding, causing the earth to crack and the mountains to tremble. From the distant dark space, Darkseid appeared like a giant block of stone carved with hatred. He advanced heavily, his crimson eyes glowing like two torches leading the way into the darkness. The air was thick, as if every breath was blocked by the invisible pressure radiating from him. Zeus rushed forward, shooting lightning straight at his enemy. The entire sky exploded with blinding white light, but Darkseid stood there, barely flinching. He raised his hand, creating a dark energy barrier that swallowed the thunder god's fury. As the light faded, his figure stood tall, his eyes blazing as if signaling impending doom. For the first time, Zeus clearly sensed that the man before him was not just an enemy, but a darkness that challenged even the heavens. Zeus roared, and lightning rained down, each bolt of lightning tearing apart the earth and tearing the sky. Silver-white light covered the battlefield, making Olympus as bright as day. He summoned all his strength, striking Darkseid with the most powerful lightning strike he had ever created. However, Darkseid let out a deep laugh. His eyes flashed, and from them shot out fiery red, omega beams like coiled fiery snakes, piercing through space. They stopped Zeus's lightning, then swept back, tearing the air and forcing the thunder god to retreat. In his shock, Zeus realized that even his ultimate power was being pushed back. Darkseid advanced, each step like a death knell. He threw a single punch, but it was enough to crush Zeus's golden armor, sending him to his knees in the middle of the battlefield. The thunder and lightning died down. The once bright sky was now engulfed in a fiery red darkness. Finally, Darkseid placed his giant hand on the shoulder of his exhausted opponent. The Omega Beam erupted, wrapping around Zeus and forcing him to collapse in a fiery red light. On Mount Olympus, the god who was once the symbol of power fell, and Darkseid stood proudly in the midst of the chaos, as if declaring that darkness was the true ruler. Olympus was silent, and the whole sky trembled under his domination. And the winner is Darkseid.
I hope you enjoyed this fight. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Follow me if you like. That's it for today's video. Thank you very much.